So the dust has been settling on Drake's very embarrassing courtroom failure. Okay, after the beef with Kendrick Lamar, Kendrick dropped Not Like Us on his head top and absolutely destroyed his image. Okay, we covered this in a previous video. Okay, Drake filed a lawsuit against UMG and basically was saying that they defamed him. Okay, he's saying that UMG conspired with Kendrick Lamar to destroy his career, to take him down, to portray him as a PDF file, and the judge said no way. Okay, they dismissed the lawsuit over Drake's claims that they had, enabled the defamation that had gone on in the Not Like Us diss track. It was a very embarrassing L for Drake. Okay, the judge said that the whole song where Kendrick claimed that Drake was a certified PDF was just an expression of pure opinion and not an assertion of facts. Okay, and to make it even worse, the reason why the judge sided so hard with with Kendrick, is because basically Drake goaded Kendrick into dissing him. He said, "Yo, why don't you talk about me with the young girls? That might work. You heard it on the Joe Budden podcast." Well, the judge said, "Hey, you goaded him into doing this. This is what you wanted. You took the L." So now a lot of people are debating whether or not Drake has actually taken the biggest L in rap history. All right, they're saying let's lower his casket. Okay, this is the Kendrick Lamar PG Lang subreddit, and they're saying, look, this is a tweet that somebody put up. Kendrick did Drake so dirty, beat him in the battle, won 5 Grammys for Not Like Us, clowned him at the Super Bowl back to back, back to back sold out stadium shows in Toronto, and finally the judge dismissed the defamation lawsuit. Biggest L in hip hop history. I'm not gonna lie, I actually agree. I actually agree with this sentiment. Okay, I think this is the biggest L in hip hop history. I'm not gonna lie. Not Like Us was so devastating, so savage. I was already looking like the biggest L in hip hop history, but Drake has now compounded it with this flop lawsuit, and it's just embarrassing, man. Like, for him to go out this sad is actually diabolical. Okay, and they're reflecting that in the comments. People are saying, let the congregation say amen. Do not forget the pop out. He also popped out on him, had all the gangs in LA coming together. People saying dudes on Twitter are trying to blame the Democrats, all right? They're saying they can't accept an L. People are saying we saw the right-wing grifting coming from them, right? After they started praising that shit stain of a human Morgan Wallen because Drake wants to try and get clout off him. Yet got mad at Fantano. I think we all know what direction that fan base was heading in. Once you get publicly called out, that's usually the direction you go. Okay, they're saying, I mean, Drake's still more successful. Yeah, if you think streams mean success. He is more successful, but this L is a stain on his career. His songs just aren't charting how they used to. Okay, he's not dominating the charts like he was. It is the most diabolical, most embarrassing L in hip hop history, all right? And the OVO docket, okay, the Twitter page that is keeping everybody abreast of all of the updates related to Drake's lawsuit, they're in damage control mode. They're crashing out. It says if you've been following Drake's case against UMG recordings from the beginning, then you're aware that Judge Vargas is a first-time judge with less than 1 year on a bench. Excuses, excuses. It's saying judges make right and wrong rulings every day. It's why we have the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court to review their work. Regardless of who won at trial level, the other party was always going to appeal the judgment. False accusations of S crimes spread by a major corporation are something that no one should just take. It's going to take some time, but Drake will eventually get his due justice, Cap. We will continue to cover this until Drake decides it's reached the end. Okay, so he's going to do his appeal. I don't think it's going to work. People are saying it's true. Even if Drake's team won, UMG would have appealed it, and then everyone who's defending the billion-dollar corporation would have loved that. Okay, saying Judge Vargas dismisses a case she's a rookie, but when she approved discovery, she was Team OVO. All right? People saying, luckily for me, I never said she was Team OVO, but what I don't understand is if she thought the entire case was BS, why grant discovery in the first place? Why grant Drake's team the right to serve subpoenas to certain people? She could have been dismissed this case earlier this year. Some people are saying that L, it's not just the biggest L in rap history, it might be the biggest L in music history at large. I can't think of a more embarrassing musician squabble in history. Please enlighten me if you know of anything. I don't even know. I couldn't even say, like, who's got a bigger L than this in music history. It's very, very embarrassing. This is an interesting Uno reverse card that people are pulling out. They're saying, serious question, what's stopping Whitney from suing Drake now? Now he's lost the battle to Kendrick as well as the court battle. For all the crazy stuff that Drake was accusing Kendrick of saying about him, Drake also said some crazy stuff about Kendrick and his family. It says Drake has a history of going after people who he's beefing with families. He's always taking things so personal when he really doesn't need to. And now Drake effed around with the wrong person, Kendrick, and found out. Yes, Drake's family has nothing to do with any of this for Meet the Grahams to even exist. but neither did Kendrick's family, and Drake was the one who started this all. Kendrick never dissed any of Drake's family members in Meet the Grahams, but Drake dissed Kendrick's family, making fun of the fact that Kendrick suffered a sexual assault/abuse when he was a child, making fun of his TG uncle and auntie. The whole Kendrick beats on Whitney thing, Dave Free being one of Kendrick's kids' father. Kendrick never went the family route until Drake brought up his family. Neither Kendrick or Drake's family members should have been brought up in a rap battle, but Drake is the one who started it. As Kendrick said, this was supposed to be a good exhibition within the game, but you effed up the moment you mentioned my family's name. So Drake is implying that Kendrick beats on his queen and that his queen slept with his best friend and business partner, and his best friend is the father to his son, and also making fun of an essay moment that happened to Kendrick when he was younger. Whitney has all the evidence and reasons to sue Drake now. We all know Kendrick won't sue because that's not who he is as a person, but his wife should definitely sue so that Drake can take another L. People are saying she probably won't sue because she's most likely a well-adjusted adult, all right, and is busy being a mother. You don't know nothing about that, ma'am. That's crazy. Okay, people saying, guys, Drake lost the lawsuit because the judge ruled fairly that in the context of a rap battle, nothing each party claims should be taken seriously, and UMG based their entire dismissal on the premise that both parties were lying or exaggerating. Whitney could absolutely sue, but she would have to prove that Drake was knowingly lying. It would go into discovery, which UMG just did everything in their power to avoid. Do you really want Kendrick to have to take a paternity test or release his contracts with UMG? Because that is what it would take to prove that Drake is lying. She would also have to demonstrate some kind of real harm to her career or reputation, and as far as everyone's concerned, Kendrick just had the best year of his career. Drake absolutely took the L on this one, but probably would have still lost if Vargas let this go to trial. But UMG dodged a bullet by not being forced into discovery. They'll take the W and move on. People are saying, well said here. The real winner's moving on. Not only the points you made, but this would only involve the kids even more than they already have. They're saying exactly the only way to prove that Drake was saying falsehoods is to prove that it wasn't true. That would entail releasing all the stuff they just successfully avoided having to do, and a paternity test proving that the kids are Kendrick's. More of a can of worms to do it than to not, okay? They're saying, oh, look, everyone, the PDF suffering anal pain from champagne sloppy, taking L after L after L after L after L. Okay. It says, because it wouldn't be a great look for Kendrick in the eyes of Drake fans, that would vindicate them of any shame for Drake suing. See, they are doing it too. Okay, look, as I said in my last video on the topic, it is October, man. It's October's very own. This is the month that Drake is supposed to be releasing his project. Okay, he was supposed to finally clap back. Tried to clap back in the courtroom, didn't really work out. Okay, tried to pop out with a new single with Central C, didn't really top them charts, all right? Kendrick was absolutely dominating the chart for months and months and months. Now Drake can't. Drake's struggling to even hit that top 20 spot, if I'm honest with you. It's a bad look. So, look, I'm going to keep following this thing. I'm going to keep my eye on the situation. I feel like Drake is in such a tight spot, and pretty much any move that he makes now, like any song that he releases, is going to be under, oh my God, so much scrutiny, such a microscope, so much inspection. It might not even be worth him popping out. And the fact is that he tried to sue his label UMG and lost, and he's still with the label. In their little statement after the lawsuit got thrown out, UMG said, look, we're ready to just get back to promoting Drake's music the best that we know. But how can you go back to it after that? Like, after that disastrous lawsuit, after this embarrassing L, how can you go back to music and know that UMG are the ones trying to push you? I'm not going to lie, the music industry is known for being very vindictive, okay? It wouldn't surprise me if this was only the beginning of more of a line of Drake's L's, okay? If Drake tries to release his project under UMG, you know they're not gonna have the bots. Their bots are gonna be standing down, the numbers are gonna be trash, and Drake usually pops out doing hundreds and hundreds of thousands, if not the 7-figure mark when he does sales for his projects. I think Drake might pull the album. I think Drake might just take his ball and go home and just say, forget this. I think he might. Honestly, I could see Drake quitting music over this. It's actually such an embarrassing L. I think Drake might actually just be like, F all this. I'm not even going to bother dropping anymore. I'm just going to go back to my gambling streams and get my steak bag and all of that stuff and just forget about all of this stuff. He's still got a lot of aura. He's still got a lot of success. His catalog is always booming. But at the end of the day, this has taken a lot of the shine off him. It's kind of like when Michael Jackson had those allegations. It's not quite the same, but it just took the shine off of it. People weren't really checking for MJ's music in the later stages of his career. So, yeah, I think it might be all over for Drake, to be honest with you. As far as him being the big artist that he was, dominating the charts, holding it down every single time he dropped, that might be over with. And UMG might be a big part of the reason why that's happening. And Drake did do a lot of this to himself. And I'm a big Drake fan. All right, I was always more of a Drake fan than a Kendrick fan, even though I like Kendrick's music. Drake's music always spoke to me more. He's a better artist. But this is so embarrassing. And I think when you do things in your personal life and it screws up your persona, it screws up your aura, things like this, it's hard for you to get things back on track. So yeah, I'll keep you guys updated if anything else happens with this. But I'm not gonna lie. I think Drake's actually gonna go quiet. I don't think we're gonna be hearing too much more from Drake for a little while, unless he pops out with the album this month, as everyone's expecting. But we're more than a third of the way through the month, and there still ain't no sign of it. So looking bad for my boy Drizzy, man. Pray for the 6 God. I'm out.